Hi y'all, Tracy with Trials of a Long-Haired Girl here. I am actually coming to you today to talk to you about choosing a word of the year. Last year I did something that I had not done before. Like I dove deep. You know, I've always been one of those people who I purchase a planner. I love having a planner. I feel better when I write things down. I've tried going electronically. I have. It's good for a backup, but it's not good for me. I don't do well with that. So last year I did something, I splurged. I got a deal with Living Well, Spending Less, and I got one of their planners for the first time ever. I wish I had my new one, but I told my husband he could put it under the tree. So this one has a cover on it. By the way, Milkman's Garage made this cover. It is a beautifully well-made cover. I highly recommend her. I can share her Etsy store if you would like it. It has a band in it so you can easily get to your dates. There are some really great things in here. And sadly, I used a lot of them, but I didn't use all of them. No, I did that for January. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to find a month I didn't use. Because I actually started this in January. So I got this planner for the first time last year, and one of the big things, it has monthly goals in it. And goal crushing, party planning or event planning, project planning, things that you need to get done. It has a month at a glance, and then it has like the month by week, where you can put your appointments. It also has, here, I'll show you this one. It has little categories where you can put your must-dos, or I actually meal plan a lot down here. I put Post-it notes. That's how I started out at the beginning of the year, was putting Post-it notes there. But one of the big things being a part of that community kind of taught me was how to set goals for myself and how to focus in a different way. So while I'm on, I'm on their community on Facebook, some of the different goal crushing emails that I was getting from them and things like that. They were talking about, on their Facebook group, picking a word of the year, and I'm like, what? What is a word of the year? I do not understand. So they talked a little more in depth about it. And basically one of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm using my iPad and pulling up some tips that I found online, basically how to figure out your word of the year. And these are kind of things that I looked at for myself last year. But a lot of why I did what I did was because I really wanted to, first of all, if I'm spending the money on this planner, I want to make sure that I use it to as full of capacity as I could. But secondly, to be real honest, I knew going in that this was really going to be a year of self-discovery for me. And, I kind of talked about that when I did the 2019 reflections. But here's kind of some of the things that I'm actually pulling the discussion things from Mountain Modern Life. Reflect. Focus on what you need to do in the coming year. Visualize and feel what it is that you're wanting to focus on. They suggest to create a list. I didn't do that last year. I'll tell you what I did in a minute. Review and refine. So kind of focus, pick a few things that kind of go together and that are important to you. And then ask yourself, are you interested in something, or are you committed to something? So in the community, in the Living Well community, in the Crushing It community, there were lots of posts, lots of questions, lots of conversation about picking your word of the year. For me, ultimately last year, I chose transform. Why? Because ultimately, I got to that decision by prayer and really looking at, let's be honest, I was looking at the word. I looked up definitions. I was like, you know what do I truly want to be intentional in doing this year? And ultimately, I came upon the word transform. Why did I pick it? Last year I picked it because I knew I wanted to transform my mind. Because like I said, I knew going in this year was going to be a journey of self-discovery. I wanted to transform my mind, my body, my attitude. I wanted to, for those of you who have been around me for a little bit, you know that I lost my mother. My mother had a lot of stuff. Some of it was important to me. I found some letters and notes that my mother had kept and received, that she had written out to give out. So to see my mother's handwriting, I found my baby books. She even had some of my hair in it. My aunt was actually shocked when I told her that I was going through my baby book and it said my eyes were blue when I was born, because my eyes are very clearly brown. So my mother told me that when I was little because she wanted my eyes to stay blue, but it didn't happen. So what I did for myself last year is I bought myself a keychain. If it will focus. It said she believed she could, so she did. And then I have two little charms on there. One has my name, and the other has my word. So what I did with this, and if you look at my Instagram, especially when I've posted pictures of my teacup, I keep this sitting out on my desk when I'm at work. Why? Because much like the Weight Watcher anchors from years past, the keychains and it helps me to stay focused. And since this word for me is not just weight loss related, I wanted to make sure that I kind of kept it at the forefront of my mind. I've contacted the woman and will hopefully be getting one just like this that says Conquer. If not, I'm going to be looking at another keychain. I'm going to have somebody else do one for me because I know how much it helps. So ultimately last year I chose Transform because I wanted to transform my mind and my body and my budget. And I really kind of focused on scripture. Romans 12:2, and in the King James Version it says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." So for me, that went across all kinds of barriers for me. And I thought, you know what? That is the word that I need for this year. This year, I went through many word choices again. Robbie and I talked about it. There were many: joy, fearless, brave. And kind of what I did is I went through the various words. I looked them up. It sounds funny, I'm a grown woman, but I pulled up the dictionary and I'm like, you know what? I just want to confirm that these words actually mean what I think that they mean. So I did that. So ultimately this year, my word is conquer. How is that different than transform, you ask? Because this, for me, I'm going to be focusing a lot on clearing out clutter. And kind of clearing out clutter, kind of simplifying things, trying to make sure that I want to conquer my budget. I want to conquer my weight. I want to conquer all those negative thoughts going through my head. And this is important to me. This community has grown to mean more to me than I ever thought possible. I am very blessed that I have my husband's support. I have my family's support, not just my immediate family, but my extended family. And that is indeed a blessing. And I don't take that lightly or for granted. But there are many things about me. I'm not saying that I'm a horrible person or, anything like that. But I know there are things about me that could be better. And the first thing that kind of pops through my mind is, which I've heard for years, that we are more than conquerors through Christ. And that, to me, just speaks volumes, because there are so many areas that I do want to conquer. I want to conquer. I want to conquer the clutter. I want to simplify things. I want to make sure, honestly, I'm at that point in my weight loss journey, which I don't really remember going through this specifically before. It was more like I had friends telling me, hey, you need to change your clothes because you're wearing things that no longer fit you. But this time I realized that looking at myself when I went to the bathroom at work, there's 2 mirrors, my clothes don't fit right. So I need to conquer my closet. I need to conquer my chest of drawer, my dresser. And one of the big things for me, and something that I've started on this year, is started conquering fear. I started trying to get out of my own way, and that's important. So this word conquer is going to apply to so many areas in my life. And it's also going to help me, hopefully, not lose focus, but to focus on those things that I know are important to me and to my family. My daughter will graduate this year. All of my children will technically be adults. They'll be grown-ups. So, that's something else that I'm going to have to conquer. I'm going to have to figure out how to be comfortable in my own skin, and to figure out how to take being a mother who has to get up and fix, well, I don't have to, let's be honest. I choose to get up and fix lunch for my daughter. I fix lunch for my husband. this is something that I do because I want to, because it's important to me. So, Conquer, I think, is much like Transform. It's going to run across multiple barriers for me. And there are so many things I want to conquer. But definitely fear. I want to kick fear in the hiney. But I feel like this is going to be a word that's going to keep me focused and keep me positive and on the right track. And maybe next year or the year after, maybe then I'll go with joy. Maybe then I'll be in a better mindset to be able to choose the word joy and to figure out the things that bring me joy. Because there are many things. So, if it hadn't been for Robbie at Frecky Fit Wolf even suggesting that this would be a good collab video, I'm not sure I would have even thought about it. So thank you, Robbie, for talking me through this. And thank you, everybody, for participating. I will put everybody's links below. Take some time. Go watch their videos as well. If you haven't picked a word of the year, maybe consider it. Maybe look up some of the different ways. I know that there are multiple videos on YouTube where they talk about how they picked and how you can pick your word of the year. Honestly, I didn't want to do that because I know it's already out there, and I think my process was different last year, and my process is still a little different this year, so I didn't want to try to walk somebody else through it when this process for me is still relatively new. But try it. Try it. See if it helps you to focus. Because like I said in the reflections tag, I don't make New Year's resolutions anymore. But this, focusing on a word for me was easier than a resolution. Focusing at the beginning of the year on the goals that I had planned, budgeting and losing weight, and there was a third one, but I don't remember what it was. It gives you different areas to focus on, but 3 big ones. And for me, one of my big ones was weight loss and my budget. And y'all, while I can't say I've knocked my weight loss out of the park, there has definitely been much improvement. My budget, I'm getting a better handle on. I've never been good with math. It's not my strong suit. So, I'm working with my husband on trying to be better at that. And, it's funny because I enjoyed accounting, but budgeting is not a thing I do well. Anyway, take a minute and watch some of the other videos as well. It really helps when we get your feedback, when we get your input. It helps, and y'all are important. You keep us on track and keep us going in the right direction. I don't think I'm ever going to be this is never going to be my full-time job, but it's fun. Y'all keep me accountable, and that I appreciate and enjoy. And P.S., my short-haired dude is the best husband ever. And no, I'm not saying that with a gun to my head. He is taking me to see one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies ever on the big screen. So I am going on an afternoon date with my husband to see It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, I almost forgot. I said I was going to share a story. One of the other big factors for me choosing this particular word of the year. Many, many moons ago, when I was a little girl, I was in the 5th grade. My teacher was Mrs. Jan Traeger. She saw something in me that I could not see in myself. I love to sing, y'all. I always have. My mother, I would sing to the top of my lungs, and in case y'all have heard the song Band on the Run, my mother used to tell a story where I would get so excited when we were in the car, and I would sing to the top of my lungs whether I had the words right or not. And apparently that one, I was belting out, "Sand on the rug." Don't ask me. That's what my little mind heard, or my little ears heard. So that's what came out my mouth. Anyway, I love to sing, but I never thought that I was good enough. So in the 5th grade, at that point, maybe you didn't, but in our school district, we kind of had limited choir exposure. It wasn't like a class in and of itself. It's something that we did, kind of an extracurricular thing. And Miss Traeger came to me, and she wanted me to be the lead in the play. And I was going to have a solo. Y'all, I was scared out of my mind. I kept telling her, "Miss Traeger, I can't do this. I can't. And I would go back in my head to, and I can't remember which teacher it was. I want to say it was Miss Chick, but I could be wrong. But I remember my mother, I remember one of my teachers always saying, "Can't, never, could do anything." And Miss Traeger kept telling me, "No, Tracy, you can do it. You are the best person to do this. You can do this." So she gave me all those little tips, that you tell people when they're making a speech. Don't look people directly in the eye. Picture them naked. I don't think she actually told me to picture them naked. I was in the 5th grade. But, picture them in a funny costume. But one of the big things, and I think one of the things that stuck out most for me, because we were doing our play in the cafeteria. We didn't have an auditorium that had a stage, so we were doing it in the cafeteria, and there was a clock at the back of the cafeteria above the window, and Miss Traeger told me, "Focus on that clock. You can do this, Tracy, just focus on the clock." And that's what I did. And the funny thing is, I focused on the clock. I had been taking piano lessons for years as well, so you would have thought, although I never spoke, I didn't sing when I did piano, I just played piano. So I had done recitals and things like that. But singing in front of people just scared me to death. And a friend of mine, not quite sure how he wound up with it. I'm sure he's told me. He had my costume from when I was Telstar, which was the lead in the play. I was amazed. My mother, I had pictures of me with this really dark blush on because they had to have it because of the way the lights were. One day maybe I'll pull those out and scan those in. And that night I conquered my fear. I stood up in front of people that I didn't know, and I sung my heart out. And we were watching a young lady at a choir concert. My daughter had a choir concert. And I'm watching her, and you could tell she was very anxious. She didn't quite know what to do with her hands. And all I could think in my head, I'm trying to telepathically to tell this young lady, just focus on the music. Just focus on the music. It didn't work. Maybe it was her telepathy, maybe it was mine, I don't know. But it didn't work. But, you know, that is one of the biggest fear-conquering moments for me, is that I could actually stand up and sing to the top of my lungs in front of a room full of strangers that I probably wouldn't know if they walked up on me right now, to be honest. But that was a blessing, and that little story right there means that if it's something that I really want to do, that I can do it. I can conquer my fear. I can conquer the mountain. And I'll tell you that story another day. But this is going to be, 2020 is going to be a great year. I'm claiming it already. And I hope that y'all have a fantastic year. I hope as we're going into 2020 that you're already focusing about the things that you want to accomplish. Don't just sit back. As my mama used to tell me, don't just sit back and think that somebody's going to come to your door and hand you a check for $1 million if you didn't play the lottery. Because it don't work that way. I wish y'all many blessings in this holiday season, no matter what it is that you celebrate. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. I'm sure I'm missing something. Happy holidays, y'all.